Brené Brown says that joy is the most vulnerable human emotion. When we lose our tolerance for vulnerability, joy becomes foreboding. You're completely in flow and you're getting really, really happy. You're suddenly starting to think, this is too good to be true. Something bad is about to happen. And when we're focusing on that, we're in fear and in constriction instead of the expansive joy. My first tip, if you want to expand your capacity for joy. I am so excited. I finally get to talk about joy, and I thought a lot about this, like where do I even start? And I will make a video about my personal journey, how I arrived at this point. I wanted to start, I think it's appropriate to start with the bit that was the turning point for me. And I started to research more. The more I saw my own patterns and understood them, the more I started to see it all around me. So it was a particular day where I started to feel more and more confident around this is my topic. I want to make this my topic. And I turned to my library. I remembered Brené Brown is an emotion researcher, a shame researcher. And from there, she came to the topic of vulnerability. And for a lot of people, low capacity for vulnerability and the importance of building our capacity for vulnerability personally, but then also in leadership. That's where she's focusing on at the moment. I hope if she ever gets to see this, that she will write a book about this topic as well. I plan down the line to make a podcast on joy, and I would love to have her on. I have a dream list of guest speakers. But I'm going to read you from this book. So this book, The Atlas of the Heart, is about 87 emotions that we experience, and that it's important that we can name and understand and have the vocabulary around for us personally to heal, but also in order to have healthy connections with other human beings. And I read up on joy. That one I'm going to share another time. There's one on foreboding joy, and I'm just going to read that to you. Foreboding joy. When I give talks, people always seem surprised by the finding that joy is the most vulnerable human emotion. I'll repeat that. When I give talks, people always seem surprised by the finding that joy is the most vulnerable human emotion. Given that I study fear and shame, people are hesitant to believe that something as positive as joy can make us squirm. Then I share what is almost certainly the most surprising finding for most people. If you're afraid to lean into good news, wonderful moments, and joy, if you find yourself waiting for the other shoe to drop, you're not alone. It's called foreboding joy, and most of us experience it. This is when things get really quiet. Foreboding joy is one of those practically universal experiences that everyone thinks of as something only they do. A few people don't experience it, but most of us do. And when it comes to parents, 95% of the parents we interviewed experience foreboding joy with their children. When we lose our tolerance for vulnerability, joy becomes foreboding. No emotion is more frightening than joy, because we believe if we allow ourselves to feel joy, we are inviting disaster. We start dress rehearsing tragedy in the best moments of our lives in order to stop vulnerability from beating us to the punch. We are terrified of being blindsided by pain, so we practice strategy and trauma. But there's a huge cost. When we push away joy, we squander the goodness that we need to build resilience, strength, and courage. Wow, she's the queen of vulnerability. And Brené Brown says that joy is the most vulnerable human emotion. We live in a society where vulnerability is something that is shamed, and where a lot of us have a low tolerance of vulnerability, and therefore also a low tolerance for joy. I want to give you a few more examples of this foreboding joy, and there is different things that kind of feed into this as well as I continue to study, like the nervous system regulation, mindsets, other things, but let's just start here so that you also can start noticing these things in your life. So imagine you have one of these phases in your life where one good thing after the other happens. You're completely in flow and you're getting really, really happy, really, really joyous. There's a few different ways this foreboding joy can show up. So one thing is that suddenly we're starting to think this is too good to be true. Something bad is about to happen. Something really bad is about to happen. Maybe we had some experiences in the past. And we're just starting to look pretty much around every corner and waiting for something bad to happen. And when we're focusing on that, we're in fear and in constriction instead of the expansive joy. So we're not feeling the joy in its full form anymore. And we can go down that rabbit hole. Another way it can show up is in a similar scenario. Let's say someone made you an amazing job offering, or someone invites you to an amazing holiday and doesn't want anything in return, or like something just shows up that could bring you a lot of joy, but it almost seems too good to be true. And so you're thinking there must be something fishy, something can't be right. And a lot of people actually then, and it's like they even logically justify that to themselves, like, no, there must be something fishy. Maybe they want something in return, or that offering can't be true. And they say no. And they don't realize to what kind of huge amount of joy and what opportunity in their life they just said no to. And that also happens in smaller things. I'm sharing some of the extremer examples so you might recognize. Another way that it can show up is Brené Brown gives 2 examples. I saw some interviews where with the parents, she's sharing how the moments when, for example, you're watching your children play or you're watching them sleep and you're overwhelmed by love and this gratitude and joy for being a parent and loving your children, and actually a really beautiful moment. And then suddenly in your head, you start to think about all the bad things that could happen to your child. It could get a really bad sickness, or it could have a really bad accident. And you're kind of going into this really negative way of thinking and feeling. Again, you're not allowing yourself to feel the full amount of joy. Another example she gives in one of the interviews is, I think it was a husband and his wife, and he didn't allow himself to fully lean into happiness, into joy, because if he didn't allow himself to enjoy these moments as much, it wouldn't hurt him as much if taken away. And sadly, she passed away in a car accident. And all of his lowering of the joy didn't prepare him for the pain that he felt, and it didn't lower the pain that he felt, but he had such regret for not fully leaning into those moments of joy. That's one of the reasons that we can do this. I like to call them the internal police officer or safety guard in our brain that can logically justify all of this. And the rationale is, if I'm going really high, I can also fall really hard and deep. So if I'm not going as high, I won't fall as deep, so I can just kind of stay stable-ish, or even a bit lower, so I won't hurt as much. And that might sound logical, but that's not how it works. You're just lying to yourself, and you're taking away all the good memories and all the good experiences that you could have. There are some really extreme examples that I gave now, but it also shows up in smaller moments or smaller circumstances. But I just want you to start to pay attention to these moments. And here I'm coming to my first tip. If you want to expand your capacity for joy, definitely, as we just heard, vulnerability is important. So go and read Brené Brown's book. She has several books on vulnerability. She also has 2 amazing TED Talks and a Netflix special I can just highly recommending. It's really encouraging you to embrace your vulnerability and see it as a strength rather than weakness. But very practically, first start to notice these moments where you're actually going like really high, stuff is going really well, or you get an amazing offering and you're feeling really good and you're doubting it. Like the moments of doubting, this is too good to be true. And then really fact check with yourself, is this too good to be true, or am I creating something? Or if you're going into this like really beautiful high flowing states in your life and you're feeling really good, and you start realizing that you're starting to dramatize or catastrophize your life or anything that could be happening, notice these moments. When you start to pay attention to these, you realize how often they can show up. And I'll talk about more of these ways that we sabotage joy. Some of them are interconnected, but I need to share a bit more background. So the first thing is noticing it. And the second thing is When you notice it, check in with yourself. Is this a real rational thought, or is this something that my police officer up here wants to, they can be very sneaky, wants me to believe is rational, but if I fact check it, it's actually not rational at all. My child is healthy. There is no immediate threat around it. So let me just enjoy this moment. Or that's actually a really sound, beautiful opportunity. And I have the capacity to negotiate whatever arises. So fact checking, and if it's really something that there's actually no real ground for you to start catastrophizing or doubting it, then consciously choosing to go back into joy. To really say like, okay, no, let me feel this. Let me feel the goodness of this. Let me feel amazing about this and really, really enjoy this moment, this opportunity, this phase in my life. And there are a few different ways that you can do this. Sometimes it's enough to just refocus. If it hasn't been too long that you went into the catastrophizing, it's easier to come back because you maybe still have a little bit of resonance of that feeling and you just can re-amplify that. Sometimes it might be a bit harder, so you could journal on this amazing thing that is happening right now in your life and how it makes you feel. Or you could call one of your best friends or a really good friend and tell them what is happening and sharing your joy with them. You can make them a voice message. You can also just write a message. But anything that helps you to reconnect and refocus on the good thing that is happening in your life. Let me know if you resonate with this, if you catch yourself doing this, if you feel comfortable, even share in the comments moments or experiences that you had so we can collect them and other people can be inspired by them. I will make many more videos like this because there's many different ways that we're doing this and for different reasons. I'm also planning to do an amazing group program where I want to create more awareness and I'm putting together different exercises to lead people into embodied states of joy, to expand our capacity for joy. I will share much more about this, but that's for another time. Thank you so much for watching.